In the heart of a city full of shadows and secrets lives Malik, a 10-year-old boy whose courage will surprise you. This is a story about struggle, hope, and the power of truth. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss stories that matter. Now, let's begin. Malik was 10 years old and already knew the weight of the world on his small shoulders. The cracked sidewalks of his neighborhood were his playground, his battlefield, and sometimes his only refuge. The worn-out sneakers on his feet had long since lost their original color, much like the peeling paint on the buildings around him. His mother, Jasmine, worked long hours at a small cafe tucked away near the towering glass facade of the city's largest business center. She was a woman of quiet strength, always tired but never broken. Malik's father, Marcus, had been taken away 2 years ago, caught in the relentless gears of a justice system that often turned a blind eye to fairness. Police brutality was a whispered nightmare they tried to forget but never quite could. Each morning before school, Malik would stand near the entrance of the business center, clutching a small, tattered sign he had made himself. The sign read, "Refugee from Africa, please help." It was a story he had invented, a story that drew a few coins from passers-by and sometimes a kind word from those who noticed him. To Malik, the story was just a mask, a way to survive in a place where no one really saw him. On this particular morning, the sun was barely rising, casting long shadows on the streets. Malik shivered, not from the cold, but from the uncertainty that always clung to him like a second skin. He watched the suited men and women rush past, their faces buried in phones and schedules. To them, he was invisible, just another kid begging for spare change. As Jasmine hurried off to work, pressing a warm kiss to Malik's forehead, she whispered, "Be careful today, okay? Don't stay out too late." Her eyes betrayed the worry she couldn't put into words. Malik nodded, hiding his fears behind a practiced smile. He had learned early not to burden his mother. She had enough to carry already. At the cafe, Jasmine wiped tables with mechanical precision, her mind elsewhere. Malik knew she dreamed of something better, but every day felt like a battle they might never win. Near the business center, Malik noticed something unusual. A black luxury car parked discreetly by the side entrance, and 2 men in suits speaking in low voices. Curious, Malik edged closer, pretending to adjust his sign. The men's words drifted to him, sharp and urgent. "The deputy's plan is going to ruin everything. If he gets the board on his side, the billionaire will lose control." Malik's heart pounded. Billionaire? Deputy? He had no idea what this meant, but something about the fear in their voices caught his attention. As the men parted, one left behind a small envelope on the bench nearby. Malik's hands trembled as he picked it up. Inside was a note. "Safe in locker 47B. Password 2951. Malik knew he had stumbled upon something dangerous and possibly important. He clutched the note, eyes darting around to see if anyone noticed him. Later that day, after school and a quick meal, Malik sat on the steps of the business center, turning the note over and over in his hands. What secrets did it hold? Could it be his chance to change things for his family, for himself? The city buzzed around him, indifferent and cold. But Malik, with his sharp eyes and quick mind, felt something new, a flicker of hope. The next morning, Malik woke early, the note heavy in his pocket. His mind raced with questions. What kind of locker was this? What was inside? And who was the billionaire they had spoken about? At school, Malik tried to focus on lessons, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the note. He knew the business center wasn't just a place where his mother worked. It was a giant maze of offices, security cameras, and guarded entrances. Getting inside would be a challenge, but Malik's curiosity pushed him forward. After school, he hung around the busy streets near the business center, watching the flow of people in suits, receptionists, and security guards. The building was a towering glass giant, reflecting the harsh city skyline. Malik remembered the 2 men he had overheard yesterday and their urgent tones. He needed to find the locker. He spent hours walking around, scanning every hallway he could sneak into. Sometimes, he hid behind corners, listening carefully to conversations, hoping for a clue. A janitor cleaning floors noticed the boy's wandering eyes and asked, "Lost, kid?" Malik shook his head quickly. "No, just looking for my mom." The janitor smiled. "Be careful around here. Not everyone's friendly." He gave Malik a knowing look. Malik nodded but didn't reveal the note or his plan. He had to be cautious. That evening, after Jasmine closed the cafe, Malik asked her quietly, "Mom, can I see the business center from the back entrance?" Jasmine frowned. "Why do you want to go there so much?" "Just, I want to learn more about your work." Jasmine sighed but saw the determination in her son's eyes. All right, but stay close. And be careful. Together, they approached the building. Malik noticed a line of lockers near a staff break room entrance. Could that be it? Malik's heart pounded as he checked the numbers. There it was, 47B. He looked around. No security cameras, no guard in sight. Wait here, he whispered to his mom. Malik pulled out the note again, password 2951. His small fingers fumbled with the keypad on the locker. After a moment, a soft click echoed as the door slid open. Inside, Malik found a slim envelope filled with documents, printed emails, financial reports, and photos. His eyes scanned the papers, trying to understand. The documents detailed plans by the deputy to secretly sell parts of the company to a rival, effectively ruining the billionaire's control. Suddenly, footsteps approached. Malik slammed the locker shut, pocketed the envelope, and turned to see a stern-looking woman coming their way. Can I help you? She asked sharply. Jasmine stepped forward. We're just leaving. Thank you. Malik's heart hammered. This close call was a warning. He had stumbled on something bigger than he imagined. That night, Malik studied the documents with growing dread and determination. He knew he needed to find the billionaire and warn him, but how? Malik had never felt so nervous in his life. The glass doors of the towering business center gleamed under the midday sun, reflecting the city skyline in fractured pieces, much like the fragile hope inside him. Today was the day he would try to do the impossible, meet the billionaire whose name he had barely heard but whose fate was now intertwined with his own. He had rehearsed what he would say countless times, clutching the worn envelope that held the secret to the future of a powerful empire. But standing outside, watching the steady stream of suited men and women moving in and out, Malik felt smaller than ever. Just go, his mother whispered one last time, squeezing his shoulder as they approached the front entrance. Jasmine's eyes were full of worry, but also pride. Be careful. Malik nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. He stepped inside the cool, marble lobby, the echo of his footsteps swallowed by the hushed hum of conversations and clicking heels. Security guards stood by sleek counters, scanning IDs and badges. Malik knew he had no right to be here, but he held his head high. He looked for the billionaire, hoping to catch a glimpse. Then he saw him, a tall man with silver-streaked hair, impeccably dressed in a dark suit, surrounded by assistants and security. Taking a deep breath, Malik moved forward. Excuse me, sir? His voice trembled slightly but was clear. The man turned his piercing eyes to Malik, eyebrows raised in surprise. Yes? Can I help you? Malik's heart pounded wildly. I have something important. About your company. The billionaire studied Malik's dusty clothes and earnest face. A brief flicker of curiosity softened his expression. Before Malik could say more, a burly security guard stepped in. Sir, this kid doesn't belong here. He can't come in. The billionaire raised a hand, silencing the guard. Let him speak. The guard stepped back reluctantly. Malik was led into a private office, walls lined with books and expensive art. The billionaire motioned for Malik to sit, but the boy remained standing, clutching the envelope tightly. Now, what is this about? The billionaire asked, voice calm but commanding. Malik took a deep breath and pulled out the papers. I overheard two men talking near the back entrance. They said your deputy is planning something bad, to sell parts of your company to rivals, to take control away from you. The billionaire's face hardened as he scanned the documents. Where did you get these? I found them in a locker. The men left a note with the locker number and a password. I went there and took the papers. The billionaire looked at Malik with a mixture of admiration and concern. You're very brave, Malik. Not many would risk so much to do what you did. Malik's voice grew stronger. I just want to help. My mom works near here. I don't want bad things to happen. The billionaire leaned forward, fingers steepled. This is serious. If your information is true, my company could collapse. He paused, then added, Why should I trust a boy I've never met? Malik swallowed, but looked straight into the man's eyes. Because I'm telling the truth. There was a long silence. Finally, the billionaire said, All right. I'll have my team investigate this. But Malik, you have to be careful. This is dangerous. Malik nodded. I know. As Malik left the office, the weight of what he had done settled on him. He had crossed a barrier, from street kid to someone who might change the course of powerful lives. But he also knew the road ahead was full of shadows. Outside, Jasmine was waiting anxiously. How did it go? She asked. Malik managed a tired smile. He's listening. That's all that matters. The days after Malik's meeting with the billionaire, whose name he learned was Jonathan Cole, passed slowly and tensely. Malik returned to his usual spot near the business center, but now the city looked different, sharper, heavier with unseen dangers and secrets. Jasmine noticed her son's distracted gaze and silent moments. One evening, as they ate a modest dinner in their cramped apartment, she asked gently, "Malik, what happened with the man?" Malik hesitated, then shook his head. He said he'll look into it. But I think he's worried. Maybe scared too. Jasmine sighed, running a tired hand through her hair. You did a brave thing, but you have to be careful. Some people in that building don't play fair. Malik nodded, but his mind was already racing ahead. If Jonathan Cole was to believe him, he had to prove the threat was real. The documents were only the beginning. Malik had heard whispers, seen subtle exchanges that could point to the deputy's plan. That afternoon, Malik tried to find a way to see Jonathan Cole again. But the billionaire's office was a fortress. Malik's attempts to slip past security, to catch a glimpse or pass a note, failed one after another. One rainy day, Malik sat on a bench near the entrance, feeling the weight of failure pressing down. He thought about giving up. Suddenly, a soft voice startled him. "You're Malik, right?" He looked up to see a woman in her early 30s, her eyes kind but sharp. "I'm Emily. I work for Mr. Cole." Malik blinked in surprise. "You do?" Emily smiled faintly. "I've heard about you. The documents you brought. They've caused quite a stir. Mr. Cole is cautious but wants to understand everything." Malik's heart leapt. "Can I talk to him? Please." Emily shook her head. "Not yet. But I can help you get closer. There's a meeting tomorrow with the board. If you have more proof, that's the place to be." Malik swallowed his nerves but nodded. That night, he studied the documents again, memorizing names, dates, and figures. He had to be ready. The next day, Malik and Emily arrived early. She led him through hallways buzzing with tension and whispers. Malik felt the eyes of dozens on him, some curious, others dismissive. In the conference room, Jonathan Cole sat at the head of the table, his gaze sharp as ever. Malik's pulse thundered in his ears. When the meeting began, Emily discreetly handed Malik a folder with additional documents, emails, transaction records that had recently surfaced. Jonathan glanced at Malik, a silent signal of trust. When the deputy entered the room, Malik caught his cold, calculating gaze. The man was calm, but Malik sensed the storm beneath the surface. Jonathan stood and addressed the room. "We have reason to believe there's a betrayal within our ranks. I want full transparency. Malik here has brought vital information. We owe him a chance to speak." Murmurs filled the room. Malik stepped forward, voice steady despite the weight of dozens of eyes. He laid out what he knew, the documents, the conversations, the betrayal. For the first time in his life, Malik felt seen, not as a street kid or a beggar, but as someone whose voice mattered. The conference room was vast and cold, with sleek glass walls and a long polished table that seemed to stretch endlessly. Malik felt like a small shadow swallowed by the immensity of the corporate world. Yet he stood firm, clutching the worn folder of documents. Jonathan Cole sat at the head of the table, his sharp eyes locked on Malik as he spoke. "Tell us everything, Malik." From the beginning. Malik took a deep breath, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart. "It started a few days ago," he began. "I was near the back entrance of this building, close to where my mom works. I overheard two men talking in a quiet hallway. They were angry and secretive. One of them mentioned selling parts of the company to a rival. The room was silent except for the soft tapping of a pen. I followed them and found a note with a locker number 47B and a password. I managed to open the locker and found these documents," Malik said, holding up the folder. Jonathan opened it carefully, flipping through the papers, emails with coded language, contracts, bank transfers, all pointing to the deputy's plan to undermine Cole's control. The chief financial officer, a stern man named Harris, leaned forward. "This is a serious allegation. If these documents check out, it means we have a traitor." Malik swallowed, feeling the weight of their scrutiny. "I don't want trouble. I just want to help." Emily, the assistant who had guided him earlier, nodded encouragingly. "Malik, your information is invaluable. We need your help to uncover the full extent of this betrayal." Jonathan's voice was calm but firm. "Malik, you've shown courage and honesty. That's rare in my world. If you agree, we'll do everything to protect you and your family." Malik looked down at his worn shoes. "But what if they find out I'm involved? The deputy, he's dangerous." Jonathan's gaze hardened. "That's why we'll keep you safe. You're part of this now." Suddenly, the door opened, and the deputy entered, face unreadable. His eyes flicked to Malik with a cold intensity. Is this the street kid who thinks he can interfere in corporate affairs? The deputy said, voice dripping with sarcasm. Jonathan stood, his tone icy. You're under investigation. We'll find out if you're loyal or a traitor. The deputy smiled thinly. We'll see. Malik felt a chill but squared his shoulders. For the first time, he wasn't invisible. As the meeting ended, Jonathan approached Malik quietly. Thank you. I know this isn't easy. Malik nodded, a strange mixture of fear and hope swirling inside. Walking out with Emily, Malik realized his life had changed forever. The boy who begged on the streets was now a key player in a dangerous game of power and betrayal. The days after the board meeting felt heavier than ever for Malik. The initial hope that had sparked when Jonathan Cole promised protection now mingled with a gnawing unease. The corporate world was a maze of shadows, and Malik was walking deeper into it without a map. Emily called him regularly, checking in and updating on the progress. They're running the audits, Malik. But you have to understand, trust doesn't come easy here. Malik nodded silently, though she couldn't see him. He felt the cold eyes of suspicion following him every time he ventured near the business center. One afternoon, as Malik waited near the cafe where his mother worked, he saw the deputy, Mr. Reynolds, across the street, speaking on his phone with a tense expression. Their eyes met briefly, and Malik caught a flicker of something dark and threatening. That evening, Malik sat with Jasmine in their small apartment. The city noises outside were muffled by the thin walls. Mom, Malik whispered, do you think they'll believe me? The deputy, he's powerful. Jasmine looked at him, her eyes tired but steady. Sometimes, people in power do terrible things, but truth has a way of coming out. You have to hold on to that. Malik's nights became restless. He replayed every conversation, every glance, trying to find clues. Meanwhile, inside the business center, Jonathan Cole was grappling with his own doubts. The evidence was compelling but circumstantial. Some board members whispered that Malik might be a tool of a rival faction. Others urged caution, fearing a scandal. One evening, Jonathan met with Emily in his office. Do you think Malik is telling the truth? He asked, leaning against the desk. Emily paused. I do. But this deputy is cunning. We have to be careful. Jonathan sighed. If this goes wrong, it could ruin everything. And Malik's life too. The investigation uncovered irregular financial transfers, but key documents were missing, probably destroyed or hidden. Malik felt the tension growing like a storm cloud. One night, on his way home, a shadow followed him through the alleys. His heart raced, but he kept walking fast. Kid, a voice hissed from behind a dumpster. Malik froze. Stay out of this, or you'll regret it, a rough voice warned. Malik's fingers clenched. Fear mixed with determination. He wasn't just a boy anymore. He was the boy who knew too much. The days that followed were a whirlwind of quiet investigations and whispered meetings. Jonathan's team combed through mountains of data, chasing every lead Malik's information had sparked. But the deputy, Reynolds, proved slippery, a master of deception and cover-ups. Malik, meanwhile, was no longer just an observer. Emily had arranged for him to work alongside an internal investigator named Marcus, a no-nonsense man with sharp eyes and a kind heart. Marcus treated Malik like a partner, not a street kid. All right, Malik, Marcus said during their first meeting in a dimly lit office. You remember those numbers, the names? Anything else? Malik nodded. Yes. And there's one place I think they hide more documents, an old storage room in the basement, near the loading docks. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You sure about that? Malik swallowed. I heard the men say it's where they keep sensitive stuff. That night, Marcus and Malik returned to the business center after hours. The silence was thick, broken only by the soft hum of machines. Malik's heart pounded as they crept through the shadows, the cool air biting his skin. They found the storage room, dusty, filled with forgotten crates and papers. Marcus pulled out a flashlight and started sifting through the boxes. Suddenly, Malik spotted a locked filing cabinet at the back. There, he whispered. Marcus nodded and pulled out a set of lockpicks. After 10 minutes, the lock clicked open. Inside were folders labeled with dates and cryptic titles. Marcus pulled out one marked Project Eclipse. He flipped through the papers. These looked like internal memos and transactions. Malik scanned over the documents. That's the deputy's handwriting. They spent hours copying and photographing everything. But the deeper they dug, the clearer it became. The deputy wasn't acting alone. There were names Malik hadn't heard, and deals that threatened to destroy Jonathan's empire. As they left the building, Malik's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop digging or else. Malik looked at Marcus, eyes wide. Marcus's face hardened. This just got serious. The night air outside the cafe was thick and heavy, as if the city itself held its breath. Malik's fingers trembled as he read the ominous text again and again on his cracked phone screen. Stop digging or else. His heart thudded painfully. Every step he took now felt watched. The streets that once felt familiar and safe had morphed into a labyrinth of shadows and whispers. He looked over his shoulder as he hurried home, each passing stranger's glance twisting into a potential threat. At the small apartment, Malik's mother, Jasmine, was waiting, wiping down the worn kitchen table. Her face lit up when she saw him, but the brightness faltered when she noticed the tension in his eyes. "What's wrong, baby?" she asked, pulling him close. Malik hesitated, then showed her the message. "Someone wants me to stop helping Mr. Cole. They said, or else." Jasmine's jaw clenched, but she wrapped her arms around him tighter. "No one will hurt you while I'm here. We face this together." The next morning, Malik forced himself out into the daylight. The usual chatter around the cafe was muted, and faces seemed colder. When he passed by the business center, a man in a dark suit lingered nearby, his eyes locked on Malik like a predator tracking prey. Malik quickened his pace, heart racing. Later that day, Emily called. "Meet me at the safe house. Jonathan wants to talk." Malik's stomach twisted, but he agreed. Inside the sterile conference room of a discreet office building, Jonathan Cole's usually composed face was shadowed with concern. "Malik," Jonathan began, "you've done something remarkable. But the deeper we dig, the more dangerous this gets." Malik swallowed hard. "I'm scared. What if they come after me? My mom?" Jonathan gave him a firm look. "That's why we need to keep you close and protect your family." Emily handed Malik a small envelope. "Inside are emergency contacts and some money. Use it if you ever feel in danger." Malik nodded, feeling a mixture of gratitude and fear. Suddenly, the door burst open. Two men in dark suits strode in briskly, flashing badges. "Jonathan Cole, you're under arrest for financial misconduct," one declared loudly. Gasps filled the room. Malik's eyes widened. Jonathan's voice was steady but furious. "This is a frame-up. It's the deputy. He's trying to destroy everything." The men ignored him and started reading rights. Malik looked helplessly at Jonathan. "What do we do?" Jonathan shot a quick glance at Emily. "Stay calm. We fight this." As they were led out, Malik's mind raced. The deputy's reach was wider and darker than he had imagined. Outside, the city lights flickered, mirroring Malik's turbulent thoughts. The boy who once begged for coins was now a key piece in a battle for power, truth, and justice, and the cost might be higher than he was ready to pay. Malik watched helplessly through the glass as Jonathan was led away by the officers. His heart pounded painfully in his chest. A mixture of fear, anger, and confusion swirled inside him. The man who had promised to protect him was now behind bars, and the deputy's plans seemed unstoppable. Emily placed a steadying hand on Malik's shoulder. "We have to stay strong. This isn't over." Malik swallowed hard, trying to steady his trembling voice. "But what can I do? I'm just a kid." Emily's eyes were fierce. "You're more than that. You have the truth, and we will use it." Back at the small apartment, Malik sat with his mother, the weight of the night pressing down on them. Jasmine held his hand tightly. "We'll get through this," she whispered. "We have to." Days passed in a blur of meetings, phone calls, and whispered strategies. Malik continued to gather information with Marcus and Emily, risking everything to find the proof that would clear Jonathan's name and expose the deputy. One evening, Malik sat alone in the dim light of his room, staring at the folder of documents he'd helped uncover. His mind replayed the deputy's cold threats, the sudden arrest, the heavy silence that followed. A soft knock at the door startled him. It was Marcus. "We found something," Marcus said quietly, sliding a thick envelope onto the table. Evidence linking the deputy directly to the fraudulent transfers and the setup. Malik's eyes widened. "This could clear Jonathan?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, but it's dangerous. The deputy's got allies everywhere." Determined, Malik and Marcus planned to bring the evidence to the board during the next meeting. It was a risky move. The deputy would surely fight back hard. The day of the meeting arrived. Malik sat in the tense room, flanked by Emily and Marcus. Jonathan was still in custody. His absence felt like a shadow over the proceedings. The deputy entered, smug and confident. "I trust the board will see reason." Malik's voice was steady as he stood. "You've been lying. I have proof." He laid out the documents, each page exposing more of the deputy's treachery. The room buzzed with shock and disbelief. One by one, the board members confronted the deputy. The walls of his carefully built facade crumbled. Finally, security escorted the deputy out, the weight of his betrayal undeniable. Jonathan was released, his eyes meeting Malik's across the room. A silent thank you passed between them. Malik felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. The battle was won, but the scars would remain. The morning light filtered softly through the cracked window of Malik's small bedroom. The air was cool, carrying the faint hum of the waking city beyond. Malik lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, the events of the past weeks replaying endlessly in his mind. The fight, the danger, the threats, it all felt like a heavy cloak he'd been forced to wear too soon. Malik, Jasmine's voice called from the kitchen, gentle but firm. Come eat. You need strength for the day. Reluctantly, Malik swung his legs off the bed and stood. The worn floorboards creaked beneath his feet as he made his way to the kitchen, where the faint smell of coffee and frying eggs greeted him. Jasmine smiled tiredly, her eyes reflecting the weight of their struggles. You did well, she said quietly as Malik sat down. You stood up when most would have run. Malik looked down at his hands. I just did what felt right. Jasmine reached across the table, squeezing his hand. Sometimes, that's the hardest thing to do. After breakfast, Malik's phone buzzed. It was a message from Jonathan Cole. Can we meet? I want to talk. The meeting was set in a quiet, private room at the business center, far from prying eyes and the noise of the city. Malik arrived early, nerves buzzing in his chest. Jonathan entered shortly after, his usual confident demeanor softened by exhaustion. He offered Malik a warm smile. Malik, I owe you more than words can say, Jonathan began. You risked everything for the truth. Your courage saved this company, and more than that, you showed me what real strength looks like. Malik shifted uncomfortably. I just wanted to help. I didn't want anyone else to get hurt. Jonathan nodded. I know, and I want to help you now. Your family deserves more than this life. I want to set up a scholarship for you, to help with school, your mom's work, anything you need. And I want to make sure you're safe. Malik's heart tightened. Thank you. But what about my dad? He's still in jail. Jonathan's expression darkened. I'm working on that. The system failed him, and others like him. I can't promise it will be easy, but I'm going to fight for his freedom. Malik's eyes filled with hope and fear all at once. Leaving the meeting, Malik felt the weight of his future pressed down, but for the first time, he also felt a spark of hope. Days turned into weeks. Malik went back to school, balancing classes with his job helping at the cafe. His mother's shifts were less exhausting now. Jonathan's help had made a difference. Still, life in their neighborhood was a constant struggle, the shadows of poverty and injustice never far away. One afternoon, as Malik walked past the business center, he noticed a figure lingering in the alley, the former right-hand man of the deputy, his face hardened and eyes cold. Malik's fists clenched instinctively, but he forced himself to keep walking. He knew now that fights weren't won by fists or fear. At school, Malik's classmates noticed a change in him. He was quieter, more thoughtful. Some asked questions, curious about the boy who had captured a billionaire's attention. At night, Malik lay awake, thinking of his father, the battles ahead, and the road he had yet to travel. Though the fight had won a battle, the war against injustice was far from over. But Malik was no longer just a scared boy on the streets. He was a beacon of resilience. And sometimes, even the smallest voice can echo loud enough to shake the foundations of the world.